Designing smart cities in China? Now this is thoughtful. Hello, I'm Kitty Learning in China. Over the past few years, the Chinese government has invested billions in stimulus programs focused on infrastructure such as roadways and subways. The first wave was designed to keep China's economy moving in the wake of the global financial crisis, but marketers need to focus on the second wave, which changes the way services are offered and used. The second wave is led by innovation in how Chinese cities are designed to make them safer and more secure. There is a move away from satellite cities connected by mass transit and cars. The new model is about creating dense urban environments like Hong Kong, integrating commercial, residential, and retail spaces into one area empowered by new technologies. This week at Thoughtful, we are talking to Paul Doherty, President and CEO of the Digit Group, a leading global authority regarding the design and implementation of smart cities and one of the experts working with the government to change the way Chinese cities are designed. Paul, thanks for coming to the studio. First of all, let's explain to our viewers what it means by smart city, specifically when it comes to China.
China has a very unique position in the world of smart cities. There's a mass migration happening that everyone's been well documented. And what we're finding is that the types of programs and policies that have been put into place by central government have had mixed results up until now. But there's a market drive that's happening through information communications technology, sometimes known as ICT, that is combining itself with a market need and also a not that China has the option of saying, well, I do not need to create my urban solutions to accommodate these people. They have to become a smart city. And because of that, there's a very unique China twist to this. You have, so this idea of market need, you have the emergence of technologies, and the must-have, because when you have hundreds of millions of people coming from the western provinces into the East Coast cities for jobs, you have three major things to consider. One is safety, security, and most importantly, the overall user experience. And we've all seen over the past 10, 20 years how when you have too many people in one place with a dense urban environment, if you do not plan properly, unexpected things can happen, probably not on the best, on the good side of things. But here's the opportunity for China now. You now have all of these amazing things coming together at once, and we're taking a look at how the urban planning is starting to take a look at no longer replicating what's happened in the Western world, but making it uniquely China. Meaning that we're no longer thinking about satellite cities and having mass transportation and lots of cars to connect these satellite cities around an existing city. It's about taking an existing city and really pivoting and really taking a different look at what it means to go vertical. Vertical cities, forests of towers. Now, what does that do to the human experience? And this is really where the challenge is to China. And then when you start to take into account how technology can start to adapt itself to start to help create a better user experience, again, with the fundamentals of safety and security first, you have a very, very special opportunity here, meaning that past technologies, not so much information technologies, but building technologies, if it wasn't for the elevator, you could not have skyscrapers. What's going to be very interesting about both the aesthetic nature of what the cities are going to be looking like from this year forward is how is China going to respond when you actually do have interaction of information communications technologies and how that's going to affect the Chinese vernacular.
That's very, very exciting time, really. Many of our viewers work in advertising and marketing, just like myself. So with all these changes happening, what is it going to affect the products and services that we are providing and what we need to do?
Well, it's a fascinating time. I think right now we're talking about innovation and disruption. There will be certain fundamentals that will never change. Both being an architect and having the understanding that a lot of our processes, both in the advertising world and the architectural world, are pretty similar. The idea of creative, the idea that it's still a business and we do need to produce product. We're actually being I think there's a very interesting collision between the built environment, meaning buildings and where we put advertising, and the actual experience of, are you getting your message through? Meaning that right now a lot of smart city management and controls are done in 3 dimensions, 3-dimensional models of cities. And because we can actually view information that way now, in a very easy, inexpensive way, you can see a lot more data. Sometimes people are calling it big data. I don't think that that's actually the right term. That's so 2013. We're more into the world now of infinite data. We have sensors, we have surveillance, we have lots of different information constantly flowing through that's not going to stop, it's only going to increase. The more that you have people with smartphones and smart tablets, and now the idea of smart buildings, we now start to come into a really interesting age that says, okay, if you're going to manage information in context, wouldn't it be really interesting if you can then present the virtual reality in a different context? So here's an example. Right now we have models of Shanghai, we have models of Wuhan and a couple of other cities. And what we do is we use those for management control, but we also use it for simulation and also for wayfinding. Instead of using a mapping type of program, imagine being able to walk down the street and actually see yourself in 3D. It's called augmented reality. And what would be really cool is if that advertising sign that's on that bus stop, it may be, let's say, Coca-Cola, but instantly, the back-end system would tell your augmented reality, hey guys, guess what? You have the opportunity to actually augment the reality, and Pepsi, would you like to be the #1 bidder? Suddenly now you have another dynamic of real-time advertising that I'm not sure how we're actually going to come out and how it's actually going to look, but what we're doing is we're experimenting right now. And what's fascinating is that it's starting to make people think differently, but with the fundamentals still in place. You can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. But what's interesting is taking that nucleus of creativity and seeing how many other places that you can actually distribute that.
Let's take a break. Then we'll be back to hear more from Paul Doherty about smart cities in China.
Thoughtful China, as the name suggests, provides very thought-provoking discussions about topics that are relevant and timely with regards to China marketing scene.
Welcome back. You start from smart building to smart cities, and now you're also affecting what we do in advertising and marketing. So you're basically changing life. It is a great evolution or even revolution, right? So do you have any example for you gave us an example in smart advertising? How about a smart life solution?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. The way that we practice, we're definitely a different type of architectural firm. We're small, but because of the leverage of technology, we do something very unique. And I think this will help understand what smart life really is about. Smart buildings actually are about taking the digital information of actually designing, constructing, and managing a building, and making sure that that information is authentic. That's the digital DNA of the built environment. That's the foundation. Smart cities is when you connect those different buildings together. So people are talking about the Internet of Things. There's some companies calling it the Internet of Everything. We like to call it the Internet of Buildings. Because now when buildings start to connect together like servers over the Internet, exciting things start to happen that we have not been able to discover before, especially when things are up in the cloud. So when that starts to happen, that's where smart life solutions start to come into place. I'll give a couple of examples. We are a master designer, the master builder, and actually the technology solutions provider for one of the largest new cities in the Middle East, coming up out of the sand. So a city for 1 million people. And what we're doing is starting to take a look at what the effects are of the lifestyle of people. One of the iconic centers of this particular city is going to be the world's tallest building. Now, when you take a building that's going to be twice the size, approximately, of the brand new Shanghai Tower over in Pudong, you can imagine the size and the experience that person's going to have inside that facility. We're actually calling it a vertical city. And the big thing you want to do with anything is to have a trust relationship with something. And so what we're looking at is the ability to have like what Apple has with Siri, where it actually does have a relationship with you. You can ask Siri and you trust what she or he is going to say. Or maybe from the movie Her, right, where the operating system starts to have a relationship with you. We're actively working right now with MIT to make sure that that becomes a reality. That becomes a very interesting way of smart life, such as it will recognize your face, your expression, it'll understand what's in your calendar and your email, so that it can come up with an empathetic answer and start to improve your day. Now, it sounds kind of spooky, but the real reason for this is actually for safety and security, because when you're 1 kilometer up in the sky, you're going to want to make sure that you have a trust relationship, that you're going to be safe and secure from multiple things, both man-made disasters and natural disasters. Another good example would be, what technology at its finest should be transparent to the process. You shouldn't have to think about it. A famous quote is, you're more worried about the conversation than the telephone call. Right? You don't care how your mobile phone is connected to another. There's a lot of technology behind that, but you're more important about getting that conversation across. Well, the same thing with saving lives. Again, if it's about safety, security, and the overall user experience, then we have to be focusing on saving lives. So another example would be what's happening with fire departments around the world. We have a technology based on our product Orbi called Orbi Fire that does 2 main things. Right now, the best practices around the world, including here in China, is that there's a clipboard with an incident manager when they're at a fire, and they write down with a pencil who's going into the event and who's coming out with a pencil. And then what happens is, the most important piece is, did they get out? Because you want to save the firefighter lives, because if you can save their lives, they're going to be able to save yours, right? So that was a big problem all around, but in the US we were able to have a prototype done with a very large municipality. It's actually implemented now, going through their proof of concept over 12 months, that allows the entire world of Wi-Fi to be used in a public way. And what I mean by that is that when there's a fire in this particular city, there's a Wi-Fi network that's like a mesh over that entire neighborhood. Person goes to that particular residence and it's on fire. We're able to quickly create what's called a geofence around that particular property. The firefighter has what's called a near frequency thread that his name is written on his jacket. He puts it on and he goes into the geofence and boop, boop, it automatically gets populated right now on the incident manager's tablet. Most importantly, when he comes out, boop, boop, it's right there. The second thing so that solves that problem. The second thing is, when you're inside of an event, you have to do an assessment. That's what everyone does. We're able to pull information from the digital DNA of smart buildings, all this tied together for smart life, to actually then populate into the visor of a firefighter's helmet. So that when it's a smoke-filled condition and he can't see, we can superimpose, because we can geolocate where he is and pinpoint through building department information, through different types of data, exactly where he needs to go, up a staircase, where their doorways are, without having to go with the best practice today here in China and around the world, which is to get on your hands and knees, touch the baseboard, and go like this to try and find people. I don't know about you, but I'd rather have a better solution than that. So these are the ideas of smart life, that it improves the trust relationship, improves security, and most importantly, can help save lives.
Wow, that's technology, not just life, smart life, but smart life-saving, This is really very interesting. When can it come to China?
Very interesting question. It's happening right now. And the way that it's happening is, through, the leadership of different municipalities in and around China, being guided by overall concepts of, great minds from academia, both Tongji and Tsinghua University, and some great firms, like Digital China and others that are doing some remarkable work here. These systems integrators are actually taking a tact where it's not just about the money. This really is a crisis that not only China doesn't need, but the world does not need, which is an overload in the urban environments of China. You must accommodate, again, for safety, security, and the overall user experience, so that you're not exacerbating a problem. So if you know that the problem's coming and you can start to adapt technologies and get your built environment in place, sometimes you start small. And one of the small ones that we're doing is just to get the idea of the Internet of Things out into the market, is this idea of smart dining. So there's a small restaurant in northern Beijing that is taking iBeacons from Apple, which are these little sensors, and they have these little stickers on the back. And what's very interesting about these things is that they can be, they have a 2-year battery, and what they do is that they locate through awareness And this is what it looks like. Locates through awareness who you are because you may have an app on your smartphone. It then goes up to the cloud and it starts to pull down information. Why is that important to advertising and marketing, and specifically to restaurants? Well, how about having a loyalty app that a person downloads and they put in their information, and over time you go to the restaurant 2 or 3 times, they know where your favorite table is, what you've eaten, what your favorite wines are, those types of things. So the app that's being developed right now and will be implemented at the end of April of 2015 is a smart app that allows a person that, as they're walking up to the restaurant, maybe with their girlfriend, their wife, or their colleagues, or a potential client, and it gives them instant face. Because it automatically knows who you are, puts all that information in the hands of the maitre d' on his tablet, and you're greeted. Hello, Mr. Chen, your table's waiting for you. And most importantly, the actual iPad menus that are very popular in around China now is customized for you because it'll know that you're a vegetarian. So these little things are starting to help, because right now the restaurant industry is actually hurting a little bit. Now this provides them a differentiator in the marketplace. That's one example. A second example would be in the user experience here in China is this idea of the forest of towers. What happens when you start living vertically? And these are going to be questions that I think through not so much trial and error, but through simulation ahead of time, before you actually build something, that you can start to accommodate things like, do we have the right mix of schools, healthcare, where I shop, those types of things where you trust these neighborhoods that are in the sky. And it sounds very, like science fiction or in the future. But right now in Wuhan, because they're actually going through the process of putting in a brand new subway system, all you see is a sea of towers in and around every subway station. They're actually taking their lead from successful, dense urban environments like Hong Kong and Singapore, where every subway station, every metro station is its own ecosystem, both from energy production, economics, and overall life experience. So you come up out of the subway station into a retail environment, then of course there's the commercial environment and high-rise residential. What I'm very interested in is understanding what the dynamics of travel and of mass transportation, specifically here in China, and then also this idea of the driverless cars, which is a very, very interesting world where we've just ordered 25,000 units for our project over in the Middle East. That's their mass transportation system based on an Uber-like type system. Fascinating, right? All electric. Now, what does that do to advertising? Again, when you have real-time opportunity, that there's instant need, you are coming back to the fundamentals of advertising. How do you actually engage a person to look at a product so that they buy it, right? Now you're doing it at the speed of light. The velocity has increased, and you have now moving built environments that are going to need to, well, you're going to need to accommodate your message into a real-time environment, and that's a very, very special thing.
Wow, so technology is no longer a science fiction. Smart city is not happening in the future, it's happening now.
Absolutely, Kitty.
Thank you for coming to the studio, Paul.
Thank you, Kitty.
That wraps it up for today. Be sure to subscribe to us on Youku, Tudou, and YouTube. You can also follow us on Weibo, WeChat, and Twitter, and join our LinkedIn group. See you soon.